So recently I've been sharing some of these videos I've been making on social media, and a lot of people have been asking like how to actually go about making these. So I'll just walk through the process. They're actually fairly simple, and actually like what's really cool is I'm just using a platform called Eden.art, for anyone unfamiliar, um, run by Gene Kogan and Xander Steenbrugge. Hope I pronounced his name right. I don't think I did, Xander. Sorry. Yeah, so I've just been making these using their video to video technique. And honestly, I have to say, it is way easier using their technique than any other video to video tool I've used before. And honestly, I found it much better than Runway's Gen 1 or even some comfy tools out there. So it's really awesome how simple this is, and you get really good results with it. So I'm going to walk you through my process in doing this. So let's get started. And actually, before we jump into that tutorial, lots of people have been asking me for more video techniques using a lot of the new tools. And while I haven't gotten a lot of tutorials up yet, I did finish a 2-hour sort of all about generative video material, and I put that up on either my Patreon or my YouTube membership. So this is a class I taught, or one of the weeks of many classes I've been teaching at NYU right now. So I don't make these public because they're kind of not for everyone's material. But if you're itching and really excited to dive into this stuff, I do have this available as well. And it's for anyone that pays more than $10 a month. You get that. You get a bunch of other tutorials as well, and some other goodies. Like there's been some Laura's I've been uploading, that sort of thing as well. So check that out if you're interested. Link is in the video notes. All right, so on to the tutorial. Again, this is at Eden.art. You will need to create an account. So if you don't have an account yet, you'll need to create one. A cool thing about Eden is once you create an account, they do give you like about 200 credits, which will pretty much allow you to do like at least a couple of variations of these video to video techniques. You can also then pay for a plan. There's a bunch of other reasons why you might want to pay for a plan. Starting to cover more videos on Eden, and there's one from a week or two ago on training a Laura in Eden, which I actually found to be really good and really easy to do. And you get, if you pay for their $30 a month plan, you can also export that Laura and then use it in any other tool you want to. So let's go ahead and move into the app. And then you'll go ahead and come over here and you'll hit create, and you'll hit creations. And then the key thing here is we want to grab this little button up here. So it says generator. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to go down to the video section, and we're going to go to Vid2Vid. So for Vid2Vid to work the way we want it to, the key is you need a style image and an input video. So let's start with our video. I'm going to just go ahead and grab one of the videos I've been using recently. So we'll go ahead and grab this one. There's just a video. This is actually my floral zombification video, and I'm just kind of edit over top of it. Let's go ahead and upload that. Next is we want at least one style image, but you can also upload two. In general, I find it's good to start with one, work off that, and then if you want to add more details into it, you can go from there. So let's go ahead and grab an image. That one's kind of nice. We've also got this one. So why don't we go ahead and just grab, let's see what else we got here. I think there's also, I've been interested in using this. This is actually what I did for that Bubble Ninja video. So let's try using this bubble and see what happens to our flowers. Let's go ahead and upload that. And then we'll go down to the settings here. And the other thing we want to do is we want to play with the ratio setting. So I believe my video is 4:3. So I think if we do like 5:4, that'll probably be close enough. Interesting. Getting some weird dimensions here. And the other thing that I noticed here is, for some reason, this sets the wrong dimension. So you actually want to come down here and go to height. So set it to 1024 or maybe 1088 because the video is 1080p. So we'll set that to 1080, and then we'll set the width to like 1472. That's about right. This video is probably 1080 by 1440 because it's 4:3. So we'll leave it at that. Next, we need to count how many frames are in this video. So there's a couple of things you can do here. One is if you want to process the entire video, you'll need to figure out the length of the video, which I think is around 24 seconds for me. Multiply that by 8, and then you'll get the result of how many frames you want to create. So this generates at 8 frames a second. So if I do 24 seconds times 8, I get 192 frames. I don't know if this actually goes up that high. Oh, it does. Close. Yeah, 192. That's actually where it stops. And you'll see how many credits that generates. So it'll cost me to generate this video. It'll cost me 144 credits. I've got a lot of credits because I've been doing this a lot recently. Your other option is to actually choose a shorter section of this video, say like 60 frames, which is what, about 8 seconds, just to sort of experiment and make sure it's doing what you want it to do before you generate the entire video. That would probably be my recommendation for most people. Start with some short. Again, I'll just sort of crop the video to that length, and then it'll process it, and then you'll get something else out of it from there. So let's go ahead and set the frames to that. We'll just see how much we generate here. You'll see that's much cheaper in terms of credits, and that's probably a good way to start, is just experiment, and then once you find something that works well, crank up the number of frames, and then you can spend more credits to generate. Some of the settings here I don't really touch. I've read through them, and I think it's easier to just leave them as is. I have left shape guidance always at coarse. I've yet to find a reason to do fine, although maybe I should try it sometime just to see. And then we've got our width and height, which we just set to meet sort of our ratio of our video. And then this is the key one for me, is AI strength. I personally find the AI strength default of 0.95 is way too high. It sort of obliterates the underlying video. So for me, what I tend to do is I set this between 0.6 and 0.7. 0.7 will give you a little bit more of your style image. 0.6 will give you a little bit more of your underlying image or video. So let's maybe set this to 0.65. We'll just set it in the middle. Shape control, likewise, is going to modify your video or your output video based on the shapes in the underlying video. So the higher this is, the more of your underlying video shapes are going to appear. The lower this is, the sort of more it's going to be a little bit more stylistic over top of that. I personally have actually just mostly left it at the default. I find 0.8 to be pretty good. I do not recommend clipping loop video. In my experience, it tends to make the video results worse, unless you have a video that's already close to looping. My video is not, so I will leave that as is. Motion scale, I personally haven't found motion scale to have a lot of effect. I think that's because if you were to crank up the AI strength, and then you would have motion scale, the motion scale might influence more because you're sort of obliterating the underlying video. In my case, because I'm keeping the shape control quite high and the AI strength quite low, it's really getting the motion mostly from what is in the video rather than from the AI generator. So I'm going to leave this at 1.1 just to be safe. And then lastly, we've got some advanced settings here, which I personally haven't played with too much. Seed is obviously if you want to keep it as is, you can do that. And there's some negative prompting here. I should have mentioned there's also a style prompt up here. I personally have not found that to be that much more useful. Your image is really what you're trying to guide with here. So you could maybe add a little bit of a style prompt to maybe get, if you find your video, or sorry, if your style image isn't really affecting your image as much as you would expect it to, you could boost that sort of stylistic look by adding an optional style prompt. But for me, I haven't really needed it. I find that like I'm uploading fairly stylistic images that the model is able to find and work with. So at this point, let's go ahead and just hit create. This does take a minute or two. The longer your output is of frames, the longer it's going to take to generate. But I actually find it not the slowest. I mean, it takes maybe a minute or two to actually generate, what will end up being a couple seconds of video. So it's still slow, but it's not that slow. So at this point, we'll just stop the video, and when our video is finished, we'll come back and take a look at it. All right, so let's take a look at our results. I made a couple different versions of everything, so we can look at sort of how a couple of the different sliders affect different outputs. The nice thing about Eden is if you are unsure of what you made, say you cranked it a bunch of versions like I just did and I couldn't remember what the configurations were, you always click on the video and then click show configuration, and it's going to show you exactly what you did. So in this case, this is our AI strength of 0.65. And you'll see here that a lot of the video still has that bubbly look, but in most cases you can make out some of the textures of the flower shapes, like that particular section right there is quite good. One thing I should note that I didn't really mention about the Vid2Vid technique used here is it does use interpolation. So it makes I think every 8th frame it sort of generates an image, and then it does interpolation between those. And that interpolation, if you have a lot of movement in your clip, can look kind of bad. It can look kind of shifty. So in this first part of this here, you'll see it sort of like, instead of it feeling like it's moving, it's sort of like the shapes are moving around. Whereas other parts of this video clip, the motion is much more simple and much more subtle, and the interpolation is less of an issue. It's sort of the downside of these techniques, and a lot of them do this, but it's just something to be aware of. I would definitely recommend that you find video clips that don't have a ton of motion, because it won't necessarily look as good. It'll look much more fake, much more AI. You'll see we get some good bubbles here. The next example here is with the AI strength cranked up pretty high, 0.9. And you'll see it really kind of hides a lot of the flowers and the other things here. Now, because you and I know what the underlying video is, you can kind of make it out in some certain places. But that like initial part right up here, like you can barely make out what was there. So it's very bubbly, Still some motion to it, but a lot less motion that is sort of driven by the underlying video. And then here we've got our low AI strength, so an AI strength of 0.4. And you'll see there we've got some nice bubbles. A lot of these others, maybe they just look more, a little bit more soft or smooth, and less of that bubbly look. So again, if you want very subtle texture, or maybe you want something that looks like this, which I think is pretty cool looking actually, this might be a good technique to sort of do something like that. So turning the AI strength down just gives you some more textural influence, but isn't really overpowering. And you also notice the key thing about these is the color influence is quite different. So when you keep the AI strength low, the colors of the underlying video come through a lot more than when you blow out the AI strength and then you get just the colors of your style image. Last thing I want to show is there's also some examples here of what happens when you change the shape control strength. So when you make the strength quite high, you'll see here you get a lot more of the underlying video's shape. And we compare that with, say, this other one, which is a much lower shape strength, and you see you get a lot more of the bubble look. And especially this first part of the clip is really where it really shows up. So again, there's a lot of different things. You can get slightly different effects by changing these sliders, but I really love this platform. I think Eden is doing a really good job with Vid2Vid. So give this a try. There's so much you can do with this by just swapping out different videos and also different style images. Like I've played with 3 or 4 style images and I get really interesting results by just changing those out. So definitely check out Eden. Let me know if you have other questions, and I'm going to try to do more of these Eden tutorials because I think it's a really cool platform, and there's some really interesting features of it. So keep an eye out for that. All right, so that's it for this video. I'll see you next time. Thanks.